My grandmother was a CIA secretary for 40 years. On her deathbed, she told me one secret that changed how I see the world. I always thought my grandmother had the most boring job in Washington for 4 decades. She was just a secretary at a government office building. She commuted on the same bus, carried the same brown leather purse, and more sensible shoes that never drew attention. When asked about her work, she'd smile and say, "I just type things, dear." I believed her until 3 months ago when cancer finally caught up with her at 86. I was alone with her in the hospital room when she beckoned me closer. "They'll send someone to clean out my house," she whispered, her voice suddenly stronger than it had been in days. "The blue recipe box in the kitchen, burn tea here is a false bottom, take it before they arrive." I thought the medication was making her confused. Brahma, whose they rise cloudy with morphine, suddenly sharpened. "I wasn't a secretary, Emily, not really. I worked for the company." The way she said company made my skin prickle. I'd lived in DC long enough to know that's what insiders called the CIA. For 40 years, I recorded and transcribed conversations that changed history. She continued, Vietnam, Iran, Contra, the wall, coming down burnt. I heard it all first. She died the next morning. I found myself standing in her immaculate kitchen that afternoon, staring at a vintage blue metal recipe box. In play tied were actual recipes, her famous snickerdoodles, pot roast, apple pie. But when I pressed on the bottom as she'd instructed, it clicked and revealed a hidden compartment. There was no classified information, no microfilm like in the movies, just a single black and white photograph of my grandmother, parent-looking, impossibly young and glamorous parent, standing next to a man I immediately recognized from history books. Behind them was a building I didn't recognize and text in Cyrillic on the back, in my grandmother's perfect penmanship, Moscow, 1962. The day we prevented war. I nearly dropped the photo. 1962. The Cuban Missile Crisis. My grandmother had told me she'd never left the country except for a cruise to the Bahamas in 1987. 2 days after the funeral, a woman in a charcoal pantsuit arrived at my door. No introduction, just, "Margaret Wilson was your grandmother." She sat primly on the edge of my couch, declining coffee. "Your grandmother was an exceptional woman. For security reasons, we need to collect any mementos she may have left you." "She was just a secretary," I said, testing. The woman's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Of course. Administrative staff are the backbone of any organization." "She left me recipes," I said. "Would you like her snickerdoodle instructions? They're legendary." The woman smiled tightly. "We both know that's not what I'm here for." We stared at each other for a long moment before she sighed. "Your grandmother was part of Operation Mockingbird officially. She was a secretary, and officially she had a photographic memory and spoke 4 languages. She could listen to a conversation once and transcribe it verbatim hours later." I thought about the recipe box safely hidden in my own apartment now. "Whatever she told you in her final moments was likely the medication talking," the woman continued. "But if she left you anything unusual, I am authorized to offer you $50,000 for its return." No questions asked. After she left, I researched Operation Mockingbird, a CIA program that recruited journalists and media organizations for intelligence purposes during the Cold War. Nothing about secretaries with photographic memories. That night, I examined the photograph more carefully. In the background, partially obscured, was a man I hadn't noticed before. He was watching my grandmother, not the camera. I scanned and enlarged the image. The man was wearing a Soviet military uniform. 3 weeks later, I received a letter with no return address. Amplified was a key to a safety deposit box and an address for a bank in Arlington. The note simply read, "Your grandmother arranged for this to be sent upon my notification of her passing. She said you'd know what to do. A French tarot. I am going to that bank." Part of me is terrified of what I'll find. The other part finally understands why my quiet, unassuming grandmother insisted I learn Russian in high school. Why she tested my memory with card games. Why she always said history happens twice, pent once in secret and once in the history books. For 40 years, she sat silently at the center of American history, watching, listening, remembering. Just a secretary who may have prevented a nuclear war. I wonder how many other secretaries are out there right now. Women with sensible shoes and extraordinary secrets shaping a world that will never know their names.